having a conversation with Jessica Slingsby today about the weird shit we do and classify as self-care. So it's no secret that I think that all women should have daily rituals that they have cultivated for themselves that calls forward the aspects of themselves that they need to activate to go out and create and cause the things that they are supposed to in this world. I think self-care should be the things that we do to just I don't know, get our vibration right. And so I'm really excited to have Jess on today. Let me get her on here. Each going to share the things that we do that are a little just outside of the box because we hear all of the same strategies. Hello.
Hello.
I'm saying we hear all of the same strategies for self-care again and again. And to be honest, I don't know about you, Jess, but I'm it's all very repetitive, right? And
Yeah.
I've never been a woman that necessarily likes to have a bubble bath, get a pedicure, or do any of that. And even the times that I've done those things, it's been nice, but it actually hasn't really activated anything within me that has felt really meaningful or contributed to me in a way that has made impact. So Jess and I thought we'd come on today and I'll get you to talk a little bit about what you're passionate about, Jess, and why you believe self-care is non-negotiable as well. And then what we thought we would do today is we each have freak flags that we kind of proudly fly. So we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we just get on here and just share some of the weird shit that we do that maybe we've never talked about, that we classify as self-care, just to throw the conversation open for women to understand that your own self-care practices should kind of be that freak flag that you like yourself.
100%.
So talk to me. Tell me about your, approach to self-care.
Well, I think, like you said, you hear about it all the time, and none of those things really resonated with me either. The bubble baths and the self-care, the face masks and all that sort of stuff. Yes, it's nice, and yes, that might be self-care for some people and do that. But I think, why it's important, obviously, is because you can only meet people as deep as you've met yourself. You can only care for someone as deep as you care for yourself. You can only love someone as deeply as you love yourself. So everything starts in you. And when I really got that, I had to look at self-care a different way. And it was not all the things that I had heard it to be. Sometimes it's calling yourself out on your bullshit. Sometimes it's giving yourself a kick up the ass, For me, my weird self-care is I like watching serial killer documentaries, And the reason why that's self-care for me is because when you're on this self-development journey, sometimes you just need to take a break from that. You need to do whatever it is that allows you to check out for a little while. And for me, that's it. That's something I can watch, and it's not because I love serial killers. It's because I geek out on behavior analysis and psychology and stuff like that. But I can watch that and really tune out, and it forces me to relax. Those other types of things, they don't do that for me. So yeah, it's been interesting. And another thing that's come up for me on this journey when it comes to self-care is being really aware of whether you are actually self-sabotaging and masking it as self-care. Sometimes it's self-care, I'm going to go binge on Netflix and I'm going to eat all these treats. And again, that sometimes is self-care. Sometimes that is what you need. But it's checking in with yourself, being honest with yourself. What do I really need in this moment? How can I care for myself? And sometimes that is it. Sometimes doing that is going to recharge you to come back better the next day. But sometimes it's actually self-sabotage and we're calling it self-love. So that for me has been a huge thing, to check in first before I decide what I'm going to do to care for myself.
I think it's a powerful question to ask ourselves, what parts of us are we nurturing? What parts of us get to come out to play when we are doing that self-care? Because I absolutely agree. Sometimes there is nothing better than deciding the rest of the day I'm on the couch and it's chocolate. Me, a lot of the time too, that's I'm giving that to myself, and it's I'm nurturing myself in that way, and I choose that for myself.
Yeah.
as opposed to sometimes I will feel like I'm in a mindset that fuck it, I'm just going to eat chocolate and I'm not going to do anything else because I'm avoiding doing something that I have to do. And
Yeah.
that's two very different states of mind, both reaching for the same thing. And it's checking in with yourself and having that moment to be like, hold on, it's actually something that's going to make me feel more empowered, better about myself, ready to go again? Or is this just a way to kind of like divert my attention from what I really should be doing or processing in the moment that I'm? Yeah, it's interesting.
It is. I think it's just a good, simple question to ask yourself before you're deciding what you do for self care is like, how will I feel after this?
Mm.
Am I gonna go and have a day on the couch and eat a whole lot of crap and enjoy that and then feel better the next day? Or is that day going to turn into a week that turns into 3 weeks and then you're feeling like shit about yourself and you've started undoing all your hard work? Then you realize, oh shit, that wasn't self care.
And I think that's why it can be really useful to actually make these pre-decisions for yourself about what it is you're going to give to yourself ahead of time, rather than not having a plan for yourself, feeling like you need to give to yourself and just reverting back to some of the unhelpful, unuseful ways maybe you would give to yourself in the past that actually aren't helpful, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Schedule it in. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't wait until you're about to have a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
Schedule self-care in, and when you start to really get to know yourself, and that's essentially what it is. It's having that relationship and being so in tune with yourself that you start to get to know what you need. Like, okay, I need to have, space from people. I recharge alone. So sometimes, like, I have to make sure I'm getting that alone time weekly. I don't wait until all of a sudden I'm overstimulated and I'm like, I snap at somebody because I haven't taken the time out to just be alone and recharge. So I think, getting to know what you need and then making sure that you do that intentionally as regularly as you need it, and being okay with that, not
Mm-hmm.
feeling bad about it.
It's daily for me, daily practice. And like I come first, and I've had to teach that to myself. And it's been through lived experience that I was like pouring myself into everybody else and telling myself that that's what made me a good person and that would fulfill me. That was like me being passionate and motivated. And all roads always led to breakdown. Always, like. And some of the deeper work that I've realized, Jess, was that a lot of the ways that I was showing up and working reflected the mother wound within me. So my mum raised me in a way that was kind of like very codependent, and she would like show up and give us everything and be very self-sacrificing to the detriment of her own well-being and sense of self. And she would overgive and over deliver, and that was her way of showing love and connection and feeling good about the way she was, connecting with us and fulfilling her role as mum. And I realized that the way that I was showing up at work and with my clients was a reflection of that. And that I was kind of replicating the need to feel seen and validated and appreciated in the way that I had seen that demonstrated by my mum. Yeah. And so I was repeating the same pattern in the way that I was over delivering and self-sacrificing in the way that I was showing up. And when I recognized that and was able to kind of like reflect and be like, hang on, I know what it's like to be on the other end of this. And it's not necessarily a good thing either, right? Like I realized over delivering, I was taking away my client's opportunity to actually kind of take some of the accountability and responsibility they needed to for their own growth, and that they weren't actually getting the best of me. And that if I actually gave myself permission to pour into myself first, I came into the day at a much higher vibration that I could sustain for longer periods of time. And so they were actually getting more from me than if I was just like coming into the day, trying to deliver, trying to validate my own worth through what I was contributing. It's just a different energy that I show up with now, that I take that time to myself every day to just kind of just center myself and make some real choices about who I'm going to be and what I'm going to experience and what I stand for every day. And I wouldn't do that without the time that I claim for self-care for myself, because a lot of what I've experienced through childhood and even as a young adult has been very fucking traumatic. And there's still those
Right.
sensations in my body. And so I still have to work on it daily. That's what I
Yeah.
explained. Just because I manage it now doesn't mean that
And
I'm
it's
free.
not there.
Yes, doesn't mean that I'm free of the responsibility for having to manage that for myself. And so I'm in that kind of transitional phase at the moment. I've noticed within myself that I'm managing it really well, but I'm also trying to remain in a space that I'm fluid about how I do that. I don't
Yeah.
want to make my approach to self-care be really rigid and restricted either. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, it's always this really nice balancing act, really
It
nice, like,
is.
of like, you know, trying to work out what works for you and then witnessing the way that you're showing up into the world as a reflection of the things that you're doing for
Yeah.
yourself.
100%.
You know?
And like you said, it's that balance. It's like you need, I feel like there's two kinds of self-care too. It's like there's the masculine kind and the feminine kind. Like, you know, the feminine kind is that being softer with yourself, being compassionate with yourself. And then you've got the masculine side, like when you need the kick up the ass, like, no, shut the fuck up, just get in the gym and do it because you know you're going to feel better afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
Going back to anxiety and depression is just not an option for me. I don't love working out. I just don't. Like some people wake up and they love it. I don't have that relationship, but I do it because going back down that path is just not an option for me. I do it for my future self, and I have to often get in my masculine with that and just be like, no, just shut the fuck up and do it. At the same time as being careful not to burn out. You know, like you said, it's a balancing act. And 100%, like I think the common theme that I see in women is really getting the fact that self-care is not selfish, getting like sitting with the guilt that comes with it, and learning that um, it's not selfish. Like it feels selfish, and realizing why it feels like that is when you go back and look at how you grew up and what you've been taught and what, you know, what our parents showed us. And I'm like you, bless our mums, you know, like I grew up in the church, and the church just teaches you to give, 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 you know. It's never about doing something you need for yourself. It's just about constantly overgiving, and that was ingrained in me. So I had to deal with that as well, you know, because I learned that from my mum.
Mm.
Learning that it's not selfish, and like you said, you're showing up in a better space for people. They actually get more from you. Like the overflow of that, when you start to prioritize yourself, people benefit from that. And when we do it, we're giving other women permission to do it. We're normalizing it, you know. Do what makes you happy, you know.
Yeah.
Fulfill yourself, and then like your cup's full to give to everyone else.
Yeah, I have a difficult time with the, you know, the story that we allow ourselves to keep telling that it's selfish, because I think for most people, we understand that by filling our own cup, like you said, we develop that overflow. And so if the intention remains, I'm going to take full accountability and responsibility for my energy so that my shit isn't leaking out and seeping out to all the people I come in contact with, it's actually selfish not to take care of yourself and not to manage your mind and not to get your vibe right
It
before you go.
is.
Well, yeah, I don't appreciate it if I'm in a context, if I'm in the gym, for example, and you see someone storm through the door and they're just in a mood and they just have this energy about them. And I know shit can happen, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, you know, you see people that are in these perpetual states of just like, I don't know, unhelpful thoughts and feelings and vibrations generate that energy and they transmute that into every area that they come into. And you just want to say, no, actually, you're the selfish one for not getting yourself sorted before you
Yep.
come out in the world. I think we do each have an obligation to manage our minds and our energy to the best of our ability. And if
Yep.
we can't, seek the support that we need to learn how to do that.
Yeah, I find that really interesting that you brought that up, because you're fully right when you said that it's actually selfish to not do it, because well, everyone's reason might be different, but quite often it's people are avoiding the discomfort of setting those boundaries, and they actually don't want to feel uncomfortable because, or they don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation because it makes them feel yucky, you know. It's new for them, and that's actually that's actually selfish. Yeah, it's if you really get honest with yourself, that's actually more selfish than prioritizing yourself. And it's teaching the people around you to underfunction.
Do you want to speak more to that? Because I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, the whole codependency thing, like, and the whole taking responsibility, or avoiding putting yourself first because you don't want to feel the whatever feelings that brings up for you, and putting everyone else first, like teaching them to underfunction, training them, and then feeling annoyed about it, feeling resentful about it. It's like you're unconsciously teaching people how to treat you at all times. That for me is probably one of the biggest life-changing things that I ever like discovered. Was I'll never forget the day I sat there and I heard it on Dr. Phil, but it was like, you teach people how to treat you. And I'd probably heard it many times before, but for some reason that day it just sunk in, and it was like, oh shit, like I'm responsible for how others treat me because I'm allowing it. So I'm sitting here complaining, I'm miserable, I'm resentful, but it's because I'm allowing it at the end of the day. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm. Do you
Mm.
know, I had an experience last week on the weekend. I have a bit of like a head cold, right? Just sinus infection, whatever. And I was on the couch and just feeling sorry for myself. And my husband had gone and got me like my medication, my Codral. And then he just continued about his day, like doing all these little jobs and just went about the day. And there was a part of me that was getting really angry because my lived experience had been, again, the mother wound exposed. When I'm sick, the world fucking stops, right? And mum would carry on like we were dying when we were sick and be bedside and carry on and really overfunction and just like shower us with so much attention and love that it was like, I'm fine, I've just got a runny nose. But I have learned that like to love someone and to be connected and to be loved by someone means this like massive over the top demonstration of care, I suppose, and posing your kind of anxiety about, how somebody is doing onto them. And the fact that my husband wasn't doing that to me, I had this moment that I was like, this motherfucker, like I'm sitting here dying, I'm sick. Does he even care? Does he
Stop the
even,
world.
right? And I feel myself almost just getting annoyed that he was like, doing whatever he was doing. And I had this moment that I really stopped and I asked myself a really powerful question, like, what I want him to do for me right now, is this an expectation or an agreement that we have? And I realized, like, yeah, I'm just projecting this expectation onto him based on what I've experienced. It's never been an agreement that if I'm sick,
Right? He doesn't even know it exists.
sounds ridiculous to say it out loud too. If I'm sick, you need to sit right by me in the off chance that I'm or care. Like when I said it out loud to myself, I'm like, no, that's ridiculous. But why I think it's important in this conversation is that, our children are watching the ways that we behave, the ways that we are interacting with other people, the codependency that we're developing, and the ripple effects that that has in many different contexts and many situations. All I saw in my upbringing was a woman that was like over delivering, overextending, over like doing everything basically when it comes to relationship and the way that she was showing up. And I think it's really important that we understand that our children need to see very clear role modeling of what boundaries are, what self-care looks like, and what healthy relationships look like outside of codependency and expectations.
100%. Like, anyone that knows me knows that my kids do so much for themselves. As soon as they were old enough to do a task, they do it themselves. My kids wash their 8 and 12. They wash their own school uniforms. They know how to use the dishwasher. They know how to use the washing machine. And it's because, well, it's convenient for me, yes, but I just don't want to teach them that I'll do everything for them. And like you said, it doesn't matter what you tell your children. They're watching what you do. They're absorbing what you do, especially that younger age group from 0 to 7. Like they're that age is like the crucial imprint age, and their brain waves are literally in a hypnotic state. That's why they absorb so much at that age. So it doesn't matter what you say. Yeah, okay, it does matter what you say, but it matters even more what you do. They monkey see, monkey do. And I had a moment the other day with my daughter, and it made me, you know, when you have their moments and you're just like, wow, I've come a long way. Like, she looked in the mirror and she's like, I look so beautiful today. And I was just like, yes, the fuck you do. I was so happy, you know, because in the past she's looked in the mirror and not liked things about herself, you know, and just to see that was like, oh, that's me. I'm doing something right, you know. I'm doing something right. I try to be really careful how I speak about myself and my body around my kids, you know. Yeah, monkey see, monkey do.
Speak more to that, because I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, I think without putting too much pressure on yourself, because we're human as well and we're not going to get it perfect. Just being mindful that what you do is more important, and prioritizing yourself and your self-care and your self-love is only going to benefit your children. The best thing you can do is be an example. We stress so much about getting it right with our kids, and we feel guilty, and if we're sitting there feeling guilty, how are we showing up to them? If we're sitting there beating ourselves up like, I'm a terrible mother, what kind of energy are we bringing to them? They're watching that. They're going to go and be a mum that does that. Instead, it's like, forgive yourself, go easy on yourself, just be mindful, have honest conversations with them. Like, I try really hard to always just apologize if I've lost the plot, or, you know, I've taken it too far. I yelled at them, and I'll sit down and be like, I'm really sorry. I was frustrated. That wasn't your fault. Just they're smarter than we think. You can have these conversations with them. And I just think, yeah, the 0 to 7 age is like, they're sponges. Like, the stuff we're doing today is the habits we have today, the beliefs we have today were formed at that age. You might not know it, but it was.
You know it, and that's why, like, we're going full circle. That's why I've consciously cultivated the things that I do for myself daily to kind of like recalibrate and realign me to who I choose to know myself as, which is not always how I wake up into the day feeling, right? Like, my normal state, and our normal is just what we have experienced most often, is not a state that I consciously choose for myself in my life. And so knowing that, that's why self-care practices for me are non-negotiable. It's not about, for me, and I know it's different for everybody. For me, it's not about rest and relaxation and restoration, which are things that I give to myself. But self-care for me runs a lot deeper than that. Self-care is literally like shaking off all the things that I choose not to feel, all the encoding that still feels there. It's like trying to, like, I don't know, press different buttons within me to activate different aspects of myself to lead the way, you know? Yeah.
So what is your freak flag when it comes to self-care? We didn't get to you.
There are so many weird things that I do. Like, we could be here all day, but I thought one of the weird things that I do that I've never actually talked about was that I read years ago, there was a Japanese scientist, Dr. Emoto, and he did a study on how the way that we actually like speak and our intentions have an impact in the physical realm. And one of the studies that they did is the way that you can like pray over water or play certain amounts of different styles, of music water, and it actually changes the molecular structure of the water. And I remember just like reading these studies and just being so fascinated by it. And you can see if you Google it, you can see the imagery of like the water, the molecular structure changes. And so I just developed this practice for myself every morning, that I have my bottle of water every morning that I fill up for myself with the intention to like stay hydrated and, you know, take care of my skin and do that shit. Yeah, right. But as part of my daily ritual for myself, I spend time with my hands on that bottle of water that I'm going to drink and offer myself during the day. And I just really feel deeply into my own gratitude practice. And I just say my affirmations and I say the gratitude that I am like calling in, feeling into deeply. And I sit within that practice for probably, it goes for about 5 minutes. And I get to like a place of gratitude that I can like tear up on most days for the things that I just feel so deeply grateful for what I have experienced, what I currently have, what I believe I'm calling into my life. And I just keep my hands on that bottle. And in my mind, I'm infusing the water with the love and the gratitude that I feel in that moment, so that no matter what occurs for me in the day that I go into, every time I drink that water, I'm replenishing the love and gratitude that's available that I have generated for myself. And so that's like, I just do it now.
I just love that. That you can't weird me out. Like that's just I love that so much.
Yeah.
Do you put it out in the moonlight when there's a full moon? Like
I don't, and usually because I'm just unorganized, I'll see people on Instagram doing it, and I'm like, oh motherfucker,
I forgot.
You know what I did do when my son started daycare last year? I was like so anxious about him going to daycare. And I don't do it every day, but on the days that I still feel a little bit anxious about sending him off, or if I feel that mum guilt that we sometimes, you know, are overcome with, I will like grab his little drink bottle and like just give it a little like infuse it with my like love and good intention for him in the day. And that just makes me feel better. And I feel good about that because I feel like it's not like I'm grabbing him and squeezing him and being like, Mummy loves you, and putting my anxiety onto him. It's just my own little way of like diffusing that and giving myself something concrete to kind of feel into and just transmute some of that energy through. And yeah, that really helps me. And I've been doing it for so long. It's something that I don't really think about until like if I'm going away, like I went on a retreat and I wanted to do it in the morning and I sat there with my bottle and kind of looked around.
I love it. I love it so much. And I love talking about the power of our words. Like, you know, they say, oh, like our words hold so much power and everything is energy. And it's like what, I geek out on this. I just love it. And that's why I love NLP. It's like, what words are you like constantly saying to yourself, and did you put them there or did someone else put them there? Like, where did they come from? What are you wearing over your head like a banner? And where did it come from? Like, check yourself, how you speak to yourself, how you speak about yourself, how you speak to other people, because words are just so powerful. I fully believe that you're doing something to the water, 100%.
And you know, the other thing with that is it's worth recognizing that we get to choose to believe whatever the fuck we want. And so if I believe that this is working for me and I believe that that's what's occurring, then that is what is occurring for me.
The power of belief. It's like people say to me, you know, do you believe that do you believe that the moon affects us, or do you believe that crystals really do something? It's like if you believe it, then it's true. If you believe it, it's true. It's just that simple.
That's simple. I have nothing to add to that. It is, you know, and I think once you can allow yourself to operate with that understanding, life just gets a little bit more fun. I think you feel a little bit more right in your own conviction.
Yeah, I heard this thing and it was like, you can choose your thoughts like you choose what clothes to wear. Like, I just love, like, my favorite part with when I work with other women is just watching them in those moments when they realize the power that they've got, because we have the power to heal ourselves through belief. We have the power to do whatever we want through believing that's true. And I just love it when I see someone's mind shift from being a victim or not knowing how to just realizing I've been capable all along. Oh shit, like I actually already have all the tools inside me. Like that, that gives me goosebumps. Like that's why I do this. I love it.
So do I. And it's really interesting to kind of trace the origin of your own thoughts and your own beliefs, not to judge it and not even necessarily to, I don't know, judge it in any way, but just to understand that sometimes the things that we believe to be true are completely up for question and completely up for negotiation. And however it was encoded or embedded within us, its origin wasn't even that stable. And when we begin to understand things that we have just taken on as truth are actually just beliefs, and our beliefs are just thoughts that we've allowed to occur so often that they...
Well, it's all happening up here.
Yeah. Once we kind of understand that, everything becomes, available for exploration, I guess. And it's not to make the way you're thinking wrong, but it's just to understand that the way that you are thinking is not the only way to think, and it's not all that available, and that we actually get to choose to think more of the same things, or to just take a wider perspective and just hold some space and see what rushes in for us when we do that.
And I think remembering too that, like, if you've been believing something or thinking the same thought for so many years, it's like our brains are like computers, and it's been running that pathway for so long, and it's so ingrained that it might not be easy at first to redirect your thought and to think something new. But once you start turning right instead of left, the more times you turn right, your brain is going to start to automatically turn right. So it's the whole, like, what are we doing unconsciously? So you start a habit consciously until it becomes unconscious. And I think that's where a lot of people give up before they get to that point, because it takes intention and effort and a lot of energy to get to that point before it comes unconscious. And I feel like the common thing that I see happen is people give up before that point. But if only they knew just around the corner is where that breakthrough is about to happen. You're right there. You just need to embed it. You just need to ingrain it until you start doing it unconsciously, like your whole water thing.
Yeah.
Now you just do it. It's normal.
You're right. So much energy. And I think where people get confused and conflicted too is that initially, when you're choosing to do something different, if you're going to think in a new way or break a rule or make a new decision, it feels like there's conflict within you because you're going against like what you have always done. And it's important to know sometimes the conflict that we feel is because it's different, not because it's wrong. And we confuse that sometimes, right? We feel a sense of conflict or hesitation or resistance, and we think, oh, this isn't meant for me, I can't do this, who am I to do this thing? And it's about giving yourself enough time to embed it within you to become the person that does that thing.
It takes time. It's like it does. It takes time and intention, and you've got to commit to it. You've got to keep showing up when it's uncomfortable. I just literally did a post about that, and it's about building the muscle of discomfort. It's our brains like to do what we've always been doing. It doesn't matter whether it was healthy or it was giving us results or we were suffering. Our brains just want to stay where it's safe and comfortable, regardless of what's coming from that. And it's I think that's where people give up and turn around and go back. It is when there's discomfort. It's new. I'm scared. I don't know how to do it, or like it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's when you push through that you have the major breakthroughs and you can create the change. Is that something you find is a common theme where I'm sure you see it a lot working with women, especially? I always use weight loss as an example just because so many women can relate to that. But it seems to be, people are giving up and wanting to turn around and go back to where it's comfortable before they get the results.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the expectation that it's going to feel really good and it's going to feel really rewarding every step of the way. And one of the distinctions that I like to make for women is that if you are living in the belief that achieving the goal is going to make you feel a certain way about yourself or about whether it was worth it or whatever, you are always going to be disappointed, because anytime that we're setting a goal for ourselves, ultimately what we're doing is trying to manifest something new, create something that doesn't exist. We are stepping outside of our comfort zone. And logically, we know in doing that, it's going to be uncomfortable. we're not going to know what we're doing. We're creating a new reality. We're stretching ourselves. And that in its very nature is uncomfortable. So we have to be really clear from the outset about what we're choosing for ourselves, who we're going to know ourselves as. And ultimately, if you can't first commit to being a person who is going to accept the roadblock and the challenge and the struggle and the self-doubt, you're just not going to get there. That's like your ticket to progress and results is the ticket you hold for being the person that, like, I'm willing to feel the self-doubt, to feel the resistance, to feel the hesitation, and know that that's the admission I have to pay to become the person that actually generates the results that I want to produce. So I'm very much like, I don't sugarcoat it. I'm not like, we're here for a good time. No, we're here to break through the barriers of all of the bullshit that has kept us in the box that we thought we had to be in. And we're going to disregard the concept of boxes altogether, and we're going to decide who we know ourselves as. And from that place, we get to decide what goals we can actually set. And I think that's what women do sometimes. They think that they can just set any goal that they want for themselves. We're told that a lot of the time, I think. You can have anything, you can be anything. And ultimately, that is true. But you actually can't have anything and be anything from the place you are in. And it's more helpful decide what the next step for you would look like and get there and know yourself there and set goals that are relative to that, rather than continuously trying to like set these big goals and it's far too big of a stretch.
Too big a leap. I think women look at other women that they admire and they're putting them on pedestals, and they're not understanding that these women who are confident and they are mastering health and fitness and career or whatever area of their life, they're not understanding that they're still experiencing the discomfort, the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, everything. They're feeling those things. The difference is the meaning that they're giving it. Are they believing it? So it's still popping up, but what are they doing about it? They're not letting that stop them from pushing through and just telling it to take a seat and shut up and moving forward. And that for me was a huge thing. And I love like that part of my life where I realized that no one's on a pedestal. No one, we're all equal human beings. No one's extra special. And if somebody's acing something in their life, it's because they've taken action and they've pushed through the discomfort, they've pushed through the self-doubt, and that's why they're there. It's not because they might have had a little bit of an easier road. You don't know that, but at the end of the day, we're all experiencing these same things. So I think women need to stop putting people on pedestals, for starters, and thinking that anybody's better than them. And just getting that in itself is like a weight off your shoulders. It's like, oh, so they're experiencing the same thing, just normalizing that.
Yes, absolutely. And normalizing the fact that not every day is going to be a good day, but there can be good in every day. God, I hate speaking in cliches, but
I know, right?
Not every day is a good day, but the good can come from every day, because no matter what we experience, we get to choose to learn through the process of experiencing that,
Yeah. And it's never a straight line. It's always like this, and it's different for everybody, but it's never a straight, easy line ever. And there's going to be hard days. And I think I just keep using like health and fitness as an example, but I think it's whatever you're doing consistently, that it's all those compounding things that you do, that every little small thing that you do that moves you towards that goal, and not stopping when you hit a roadblock, not stopping when you fall over or you get knocked down. It's whatever you're doing consistently. So if you get knocked down but you get up every time, you're still going to be moving forward.
100%. I think for a lot of people too, it's about, this comes back to self-care or any goal or any decision you're making for yourself. If you get caught up in worrying about the what or the how, and you're not spending most of your time and energy consciously deciding who you are being and committing to that, you're always going to run out of steam or trip up or let the obstacles slow you down. Because if you're only focused on the outcome or the process and not who you are being in the doing of that, right, you run out of steam. When you consciously decide that your focus first and foremost is going to be developing the who you need to be, who you are deciding to be, who you will have to be to perpetuate those things.
Right.
Set that really solid foundation for yourself. If you want to set a goal for yourself to lose weight, for example, at the gym, you first need to know yourself as a person who enjoys going to the gym consistently, right? Or like you, if you're not a person that necessarily enjoys it, you need to learn to know yourself as someone who can get themselves to go to the gym. That's enough.
Exactly.
You don't have to be
Yeah.
great. It's just, who do you know
Mm-hmm.
yourself as? And if you don't spend the time to set that foundation, any goal you set is going to be short-lived because you don't know yourself as the person that can actually achieve that goal.
100%. That's been a huge part of my journey, is identity work. So I'm never going to be that fit and healthy person if I don't show up like a fit and healthy person, right? If I'm still showing up like an overweight, lazy person, I'll never be the fit and healthy person. So what I think, I like a question that I ask myself every day, like, so what would a fit and healthy person be doing? Start there. Or if you want to make, $100,000, how does someone that makes $100,000 show up every day?
Mm-hmm.
It's all integrating that and becoming that person, like you said. That's what brings it all together. Showing up, like choosing to show up like that every day.
Mm-hmm. And then to bring it full circle, allowing your self-care practices to be in support of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No, not to be in contrast to the decisions you've made for yourself. It would make no sense to you if you've decided to be the person that wants to be fit and healthy, then to have all these self-care practices that are about going out for drinks with the girls every weekend, or, taking yourself out and having a binge or whatever. That doesn't make sense, and it's actually not helpful.
No, and that's where it's always talking about alignment. It's like you're going to have inner conflict. Then if you value health and fitness, you've got to know what you value and why you value it. So I value health and fitness because I want to live. I want to fucking live, and I want to feel good while I live. I want to live the longest life I can, you know, and getting in touch with that. So on the deeper level, I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good either if there's superficial reasons, but getting in touch with the why and, really, really getting that big time. That's been a huge thing for me.
And being really honest about it too. I think for me, like, I've relaxed the way in which I approach health and fitness a lot in the last 5 years, because I realized that my why, when I was really truthful about my why, it was tied to a lot of like insecurity and control and just feeling like I was able to control what I looked like on the outside because I felt really in control of what was going on within me. And so it's funny. Some people, like, if they're exercising regularly and they're on top of everything, it presents as being like really healthy and centered. For me, I know myself well enough to know if I'm exercising, over exercising, and being really like rigid and controlling about what I'm eating, it's actually a very big red flag for me that there's something going on inside me that needs tending to, that I'm trying to create a sense of control in my external world. So
I love hearing the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes, because I just don't know what that's like over exercising and over control. It's like, I love hearing the opposite side of that, because it's the same principle. It's just on the opposite end.
And it was mind-blowing for me that people often use exercise movement as a way to regulate their nervous system. And so if we think of the way we rock a baby when they're small, when they're crying, we'll rock them and we'll use movement to try and regulate them. As adults, some of us have a tendency to use movement. Some people will rock anxiously. I learned to go for runs every morning.
Yep.
And when I'm really stressed, I will run in the morning and then I will be compelled to go for a walk in the afternoon. And my husband will say to me, "What are you doing? Like, how far do you need to walk today?" And logically, I'm like, I know I don't need to exercise. It's actually not about doing the exercise. There's this compulsion in me to move. And I could never I knew it was like tied to feeling anxious. And when recently that it is literally a part of our brain trying to regulate ourselves, and we do that through movement, I was kind of like mind blown. I was like, wow, that's really how that started for me. And it's something that I've like, it's become an adaptive reaction, I suppose. And now it becomes something that I can see and observe in me, and it becomes a red flag for me. And so I go for the walk because it really does help me. But then I know, all right, go for your walk, but then you need to come back and you need to work on what is going on with you that needs tending to before
Yep.
you blow up, you know? Yeah.
I think that it's just having that awareness. You just got to really always be aware of your behaviors.
Yep.
But I think going back to what we were saying before, like when you're not living in alignment with your values, you have that inner conflict. So if you're not showing up like that person that you want to be, unconsciously you have inner conflict, and that's draining. So if you're wanting to be fit and healthy, but like you said, you're going out, you're drinking, and you're not being consistent with it, you're going to be feeling yucky on the inside because you know you want better for yourself, but you're not doing better for yourself. And I think people leak a lot of energy when they're not in alignment. And I find once you do values work with people and then they start showing up in alignment with those values, they all of a sudden have this excess energy. And that's why. It's because there's no inner conflict happening. You're being exactly who you want to be. I love that. Like, I just love that. It's like, oh, if you're exhausted all the time, have a look at why, where are you not in alignment with what you value?
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Really, really true.
And I say that from experience because I used to, it's the cycle of having no energy to exercise, but then not exercising causes you to be lethargic and feel like shit, and it's just like an ugly cycle. And as soon as I got in in alignment with what I valued and I realized how important it was to me, all of a sudden, who had energy? Hello.
Do you know, another distinction I think can be helpful for people to make is that sometimes we think that we have to feel a certain way before we like think certain thoughts and take action, but other people believe that, or experience within themselves that they have to think a certain way so that they feel a certain way before they take action. So I think it's neither is right or wrong, but I think it's an important distinction to know within yourself. Do you wait to feel a certain way before you can generate the thoughts that you need to take the action?
Yeah.
Or do you have to consciously curate the thoughts to feel the certain way before you take it? If you can understand that about yourself, then you can support yourself in that way by deciding, well, how do I actually feel like that? If I'm trying to be motivated to get up and go to the gym, sinking back on the couch and pulling the blanket over me is not going to put me into it. Or, what would I have to tell myself? What would be empowering? What would actually be supportive to think about in order to, get going and get to the gym? It's important to support ourselves in these ways and not be so hard on ourselves and expect us to just like magically show up. Yeah, doing all the things that we're supposed to do. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. Today's a perfect example. I'm due for my period, did not want to go to the gym, and I had to really have a conversation with myself first because I nearly didn't do it. And I was just like, it's the whole checking in with yourself. I'm like, what am I going to feel if I don't go to the gym? I'm going to feel guilty. It's going to sit on my shoulders. It's going to bother me because I know if I go, it's good for me and I will instantly feel better. I don't know of anyone that's ever done a workout and not felt better afterwards. I mean, unless they've injured themselves. But, it's that awareness and checking in.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone's going to want to feel like doing the things every time.
Yeah. And the thing is, the more you actually do it, the more evidence you kind of like curate for yourself to remember why it is that you do it.
Yeah. 100%.
I love it. All right, my love. I hope we haven't kept you too long. It's well beyond 2:00.
I know. We had a good chat.
I love it. It's so important. And I love just sharing these conversations more than anything because I get really proud about showing what like authentic dialogue can look like. We're not talking about other people's shit. We're not even complaining about, our own shit. It's like authentic, powered conversation. And I think the more that we can highlight this as a possibility, the more supportive circles of women that we can kind of like develop. I love that.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on your live.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.